Hello students, how are you? Hope you must be studying well. And so from this picture, I think you are able to guess that what we are going to study today. Today we will see about the Kepler's law of planetary motion. So what was Kepler's law of planetary motion? John Kepler in 16th century was an astronomer. He gave some laws, okay, about the motion of planets around sun, okay, and those laws are called as Kepler's law of planetary motion. He gave three laws. We will see about them. The first law says that the planet move in elliptical orbit around the sun, with sun at the one of the two foci of the elliptical orbit, which means sun um, all the planets move around the sun in an elliptical orbit. The orbit is not completely circle, it is elliptical in shape, and it has two foci. Two foci means here you can see that two circles are given, okay. If we will match these 2 points, we will get an ellipse, okay. So the ellipse has two different centers because it is made up of two circles. So these two circles are called as the foci of ellipse. Okay. So sun will be located at one of the center. Okay. So here in this ellipse you can see that sun is located at one of the center, which is point F1, and it can be there in point F2 also, okay, but he said that the sun is located at one of the foci, okay, and the orbit is in elliptical shape, okay, it is not a complete circle. The second law says that each planet revolves around the sun in such a way that line joining the planet to the sun sweeps overall area in equal interval of time, which means here um, from this picture you can see two different shades, white and blue shade, okay. Blue shades are the places which it cover in two different within a month, like you can see from December to January which part it has completed, from January to February, February to March, March to April. If we will calculate the area of all these triangles, like this one or this one or this one, the area will be same. If as we know that in winter season sun earth is placed at the farthest distance from the sun, okay, and in summer season it is near to sun. So in both the time it will cover the same distance in equal interval of time. If we will get the area of two different places, okay, like these two areas, here it is representing the time period of winter, here it is representing the time period of summer. In both the places, the area of these two triangles like A, B, C, A, B and C will be equal to the area of triangle A dash, B dash and C. Okay, so both the triangles will have equal area. Okay, so that is what it says, that the sun sweeps overall area in equal interval of time. Okay, in equal interval of time it will cover the same area, okay, like for another 1 month, if if we draw a line like from B to earth goes to E, okay, then in this case also the area of triangle B dash E C will be equal to the area of triangle A B C, okay. which means it, as the shape is elliptical, so when it will come closer to sun, it will move faster, and when it is away from sun, okay, it will move slowly. Okay, and so it varies its motion at two different months. Okay, that's why the area will remain same. Here you can see that when it is close to sun, it is covering more area than when it is away from sun. Okay, so that's why the area of both the triangles remain same. Okay, and this is the second law, that the area served by the planet will be same. Okay, whether it is close to sun or whether it is away from the sun. Okay, now the third law says that the cube of the mean distance of the planet from the sun is directly proportional to a square of time it takes to move around the sun. Cube of mean distance of the planet. What does it mean, mean distance? So let's come and see this picture. So the earth, let us consider this small circle is earth. Okay, so so let us consider this small circle is earth and this one is sun. So what is mean distance from the sun, that I am trying to make you understand. Let us consider that at B it is covering the distance r1. At A the distance from sun is r2. As it is not a complete circle, so the difference will keep on varying. Here it is r3, here it is r4. If the earth is at this place, then the distance will be r5. Okay, so this is how we take all the distances from the sun. Okay, and the mean of all these r1, r2, r3, r4, okay, the mean of all four, or the number of terms we will take. Okay, that mean is the mean distance of earth from the sun. Okay, as in circle distance will remain same, but in case of ellipse the distance will keep changing at every point, because it is so, as it is in elliptical shape, we have to find out the mean distance. Okay, so here Kepler says about the mean distance. Okay, so the mean distance from the sun, okay, is directly proportional to the square of time it takes to move around sun, which means the mean distance r3 will be directly proportional to t square, means a square of time it takes to move around the sun. Okay, so from the equation what you can see here, that rq is proportional to t square, where rq, if we will remove this proportionality sign, the constant will come. So if we will take that constant at one side, then rq will be rq by t square, where r is mean distance of planet from sun and t is time period of planet around the sun. Okay, so this is the Kepler's third law. Okay, the cause of motion of planet is gravitational force which sun exerts on them. Okay, the cause which binds the planet to the sun is the gravitational force of sun. Okay, so these were the three different laws given by the Kepler. Now, how did Newton guess inverse square rule? As you have seen Newton's law of gravitation. What does it say? Newton's law of gravitation says that everybody in universe attract by each other with the force which is directly proportional to the product of their masses, which is directly proportional to everybody in the universe is attracted by a force which is directly proportional to the product of their masses m1, m2 by and inversely proportional to the square of distance between them. Right? This was the Newton's law of gravitation. F is equal to g m1 m2 by r square. This was the Newton's law of gravitation, where Newton says that it is product of the masses and the square of distance between them. So how this square rule came? Okay, from where this square came, that we will try to understand in this video. So this square came from the Kepler's law of planetary motion. Actually, Kepler gave its law many years before the Newton's law of gravitation. Kepler gave his laws before than the Newton's law of gravitation. That's why from his law Newton took the idea of r square. Okay, so F is equal to 1 by r square. This is the what we can say inverse square rule, right? So how this came into Newton's mind, we will try to understand it over here. Okay, so consider a planet of mass m, okay, moving with velocity v around the sun in a circular orbit of radius r. A centripetal force F acts on the orbiting planet. Okay, so we know that mass is equal to force is equal to mass into velocity. So from where we get F is equal to mv square by r. Since the mass of given planet is constant, so we can write the above equation as F proportional to v square by r, because mass is a constant. So we are removing that constant, then proportional sign will come. Now if the planet take time t to complete the revolution of 2 pi r around the sun, then the velocity v is given by, so now the velocity v will be 2 pi r by t, right, because velocity is equal to distance by time. So 2 pi r is the total distance covered by the planet and t is equal to time. So now we know that 2 pi r is also a constant. Now we will remove that constant. What will we get now? V is proportional to r by t. Okay. Now let's square on both sides. So we'll get v square proportional to r square by t square. If we will multiply as well as divide r on right side, okay, on right side we are multiplying and dividing r, then what will we get? V square is equal to proportional to r cube by t square into 1 by r. Earlier it was r square, but now it has become r cube because we are multiplying one r there, and then we are dividing also one r to keep the value same. Okay, so that's why the equation will become v square proportional to r cube by t square into 1 by r. Now by Kepler's law of planetary motion, the factor RQ by T square is constant, right? So the above relation becomes V square proportional to 1 by R. Okay, because in Kepler's law we have already studied that RQ by T square is constant. Okay, so this one we are using at this place. Okay, so this value is constant, that's why we are removing that. So what will we get? V square proportional to 1 by R, and by putting 1 by R in place of V square here at this point, now we are putting the value of 1 by R. Okay, so it will become F proportional to 1 by R into R, so F proportional to 1 by R. Okay, sorry, here when you will put the value, here we have F proportional to V square by R. Now we are putting the value of V from this equation, so F proportional to V square is equal to 1 by R, so 1 by R into 1 by R. The earlier we had already an R there, so now the equation will become F proportional to 1 by R. Okay, so from here we got this value F proportional to 1 by R. Now you got that from where Newton got a square value. Okay, so for this chapter I'll end up this video here, but I'm not ending up this video. Yesterday one of your friend Ankit asked me a very beautiful question. Okay, so today we will see about that question. So what was his question? His question was, as per gravitation force of Earth, it attracts every object towards it, right? Gravitational, as per the gravitational force, we all know that everything is being attracted by Earth towards it. Then why a person who rides a motorcycle in well of death not fall down? तो जो बंदा मौत के कुएं में बाइक चला रहा है वो गिरता क्यों नहीं है? Now today we will see the answer of this question. Okay, so to understand the answer of this question we will have to consider many forces. Okay, so what are those forces? Those forces are normal force, frictional force and weight force. Weight force means the bike when it is at some point on the vertical wall. Okay, then the gravitational force will attract it to downwards, right? Gravitational force इसको नीचे की ओर खींचेगा. So if only gravitational force will work, then it will slide down, right? But when it slides down, the frictional force will start acting, and the frictional force will balance the weight force. Okay, and as the rider is applying force in this direction, okay, rider's force of direction is this, so the normal reaction force is opposite to that. That is how the rider balances himself. Okay, here not only these forces are acting, here one more force is acting, which is centripetal force. Centrifugal force. So what is centrifugal force? That you should also understand. Here you can see that a boy is rotating a stone which is tied with a string. So when he rotates it, Okay, then few forces are acting. Centripetal force, the force which acts towards the center. Okay, in a circular motion, which the force which acts towards the center is called as centripetal force. The force which acts away from the center is called as centrifugal force. Okay, on a circular rotation, on a circular movement, if a force is acting away from the center, then that force is called as centrifugal force. And this one is path of inertia, means the object tends to remain in this path. It does not remain in the circular path. Okay, it tries to remain on this direction. Okay, and we keep on applying force to change its direction. This about this inertial part we have already seen in chapter 1. Okay, that when we were studying about a question like in a circular motion, is the velocity always remain same? So the answer is not. Answer is no. The velocity will not remain same, because the path of inertia always changing. And how is it changing? By our force. Okay, so as path of inertia or the direction of the force is continuously changing, that's why the velocity is changing, and that's why the change of velocity, okay, doesn't keeps the motion uniform. It is called as a non-uniform motion when an object runs or moves around a circle. Okay, so that is we'll leave that point for now, because that is not related to our question. We will focus only on centrifugal force. Okay, so when a biker or a rider is riding his bike or in well of death, in that case centrifugal force is also acting, and that centrifugal force is pushing the biker towards this direction. Okay, so few forces will act, and they will depend upon the speed of bike also, like the centrifugal force. सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स तब ज़्यादा होगा जब बाइक की स्पीड ज़्यादा होगी, बिकॉज उस केस में वो बाहर की ओर ज़्यादा जाना चाहेगा. तो ये वाला जो फोर्स होगा, मान लो इसको F2 कहें, तो ये F2 फोर्स ज़्यादा होगा, और इसके अगेंस्ट जो F1 फोर्स रिएक्शन फोर्स लगेगा वो इक्वल होगा, थर्ड लॉ ऑफ मोशन. ठीक है, देन ये बाइकर और राइडर अपनी एक जगह पर बना कैसे रहता है? ये अपनी एक जगह पर बना इसलिए रहता है बिकॉज ऑफ स्पीड. जितना ज़्यादा स्पीड होगा ये बाइकर उतना ज़्यादा फोर्स इस पॉइंट पर लगाएगा, और जब फोर्स ज़्यादा लगेगा तो रिएक्शन फोर्स भी ज़्यादा होगा जो कि इसको बैलेंस करेगा. अब बैलेंसिंग फोर्स की बात करें कि बाइकर नीचे की ओर स्लाइड क्यों नहीं कर रहा है, तो जब फोर्स इस तरफ ज़्यादा लग रहा है तो फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स भी बढ़ जाएगा, और फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स जब बढ़ जाएगा तो जो ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स नीचे की ओर लग रहा है उसको वो बैलेंस करेगा. ठीक है, तो इस केस में बहुत सारे अलग अलग फोर्सेस काम कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, और यहाँ हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि जो स्लाइडिंग फोर्स है, स्लाइडिंग फोर्स जो नीचे की ओर लग रहा है, इसको फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स ऊपर की ओर बैलेंस कर देता है. और ये कैसे बैलेंस करता है? बिकॉज ऑफ द स्पीड. ठीक है, स्पीड काफ़ी इस पर एक ये रखता है, क्योंकि स्पीड के कारण सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स जो है वो इस तरफ बढ़ जाता है, और सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स जब इस तरफ बढ़ेगा तो नॉर्मल फोर्स इसको पीछे की ओर धकेलेगा, जो कि बाइकर को इस पॉइंट पर बनाए रखने में मदद करता है. ठीक है, सो जब कोई राइडर वेल ऑफ डेथ में बाइक चला रहा होता है, उस केस में वो नीचे की तरफ इसलिए नहीं गिरता है क्योंकि उसके फोर्स को फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स बैलेंस कर देता है, और नॉर्मल फोर्स उसको वेल ऑफ डेथ में बनाए रखता है. ठीक है, सो दैट इज द रीजन कि वो नीचे नहीं जा रहा है। अगर वो अपना स्पीड कम कर देगा तो सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स कम हो जाएगा और जिसके कारण नॉर्मल फोर्स भी कम हो जाएगा और इस केस में वो अपने आप को किसी एक पॉइंट पर बैलेंस नहीं कर पाएगा। ठीक है, उस केस में स्लाइडिंग फोर्स बढ़ जाएगा क्योंकि ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स, फ्रिक्शनल फोर्स कम हो जाएगा तो स्लाइडिंग फोर्स बढ़ जाएगा और इसीलिए वो नीचे गिर सकता है। बहुत बार क्या होता है कि बाइकर अपने आप को एक एंगल में झुकाता भी है ताकि वो अपने आप को मोशन में बनाए रखे, वो अपना मोशन बनाए रखे, इसके लिए वो अपने आप को झुकाता भी है। ठीक है, तो जैसे ही वो अपने आप को और झुकाता किस डायरेक्शन में, ऊपर की ओर, जब वो ऊपर की ओर अपने आप को झुकाता है तो वो सर्कल में पूरी तरह से बैलेंस्ड रहता है और बना रहता है। ठीक है, और इस तरीके से ये सारे फोर्सेस एक्ट करते हैं उस पर और उसको नीचे गिरने से बचाते हैं। इसी कारण से जब बाइकर वेल ऑफ डेथ में बाइक चला रहा होता है तो उसके बाइक की स्पीड ज़्यादा होती है और जब उसको उतरना होता है तो वो धीरे धीरे अपने स्पीड को कम कर रहा होता है ताकि सेंट्रीफ्यूगल फोर्स कम हो और वो आसानी से नीचे उतर सके। ठीक है, सो आई होप आपको आपका क्वेश्चन का आंसर मिल गया होगा। ठीक है, और समझ गए होंगे कि कैसे बाइकर खुद को बैलेंस रख पाता है इन वेल ऑफ डेथ। ठीक है, अगर अभी भी कोई पॉइंट आपके समझ में नहीं आई है तो आप वो क्वेश्चन मुझको टेक्स्ट करो। ठीक है, मैं आपको बताऊंगा। ठीक है, तब तक के लिए बाय, टेक केयर और बाकी की चीज़ें हम लोग नेक्स्ट